Good evening. My name is Nathaniel Watkins, and this is Impact 2020. We had some technical difficulties at the beginning, some sound issues, and now we're back. We're rolling. So today we have a little different format. We don't have any guests today. What we're doing is we're continuing on the conversation. And if you have any comments or any questions that you want to add, please feel free to type those into the comment section, and we will address them. Even though we don't have a guest, the conversation continues to go on. And so the conversation is a little different this time. Before we talked about social injustice, before we talked about the role of what we should be doing as Black people, what we should be doing as Christians throughout the community. Now the conversation has shifted a little bit because now we're close to the election time. Now it's become a little bit more political. Do we change how we act or change what we do or change our game plan based on coming in the White House, who ends up being in the Congress, who ends up being in our local areas and our local elections? Or do we keep on with the same plan and it doesn't change regardless of who's in power? For the next 2 weeks, this week and next, we will actually get into it before the election actually comes up. Not so much on, you should vote for this guy, or you should support this person or this and that, but more so from the perspective of how does this affect what we're doing? For example, we know that some elected leaders have decided in their platforms that they want to move along the agenda of police reform. They want to move along the agenda of making more accountability for police officers. And there's others who have decided that that's not the way that they want to go, that they've decided that the accountability does not need to be, or the onus does not need to be placed on the police, but more so on individual accountability for individuals not to get into situations where they're going to have confrontations with the cops. And so when we look at this, when we're looking at this as individuals, our conversation and our discussion has to be where do we fall on those issues and those decisions, and who do we support that falls in line with what we think is going to be best for social justice or best as a Christian. I will say one of the things that I've seen over the times, and one of the themes that have been said over the times I've had a guest has been, and not so much in direct words, but it has been the ends justifies the means type of mentality. And one of the questions that we have to ask ourselves is that the way that we're going to operate, where the end justifies the means? And when I say that is, well, if we can move the ball for social justice, does it matter how we participate in the process? Whether it's rioting, protesting, whether it's peaceful engagement, whether it is violent engagement, does it matter how we get to where we want to go? Is it through elections? Is it through legal means? Do we have to make sure that we are following the correct rules to get to where we want to go? Some people say that it matters how we get to where we want to go, while others sit back and they say, as long as we get there, the path that we take does not matter. As Christians, one of the things that we have to constantly remind ourselves is we have rules. We have not so much rules. We have principles. The Bible puts out rules for us to follow. And is it okay for us to suspend those in order to get what we want? And so, that is honestly a question that each of us individually needs to ask ourselves, because there are a number of different paths that we can take in order to get to where we want to go. Police reform, police accountability, an end to systemic racism, putting power back in the hands of people of color so that we are more so participants in what's going on, and we are not just the recipients of whatever is going on. Making sure that some of these prosecutors will prosecute on our behalf and will protect and make sure that there's fair and equal treatment, and make sure that people and police, when they do something wrong, that they get treated accordingly. And so, again, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to chime in. So one of the themes that we talked about recently is whether or not we as the church or we as Black people really need to have a focus in on what's going on nationally, especially from the church perspective. Had comments from people, my only job here is to pay attention to what's going on in my area, or my only job here is to go out here and tell people about the goodness of Christ, and all other things, they don't matter. And so that's been a comment. Now, for me personally, from time I have my 2 cents in. And my 2 cents is, it's a little strange for people to say that. That was the case, why did Jesus wasted a lot of time during his ministry. Why are you sitting here healing folk and feeding folk? And, why are you sitting here raising people from the dead? You're wasting your time. If all you're supposed to do is just make sure people get to Christ. I mean, or understand Christ, it just doesn't make any sense that you're doing all these other things. And so it's kind of the same sentiment I see when people are saying, hey, man, let's just tell people about the goodness of God, and whether or not people are being persecuted, I don't worry about that. That's not, it's not what we should be focused on. So we have a question. Let me see if I can get this. If persons are being stopped by the police because of their color, wait a minute, I'm having a little bit of difficulty ciphering. Persons are being stopped by police because of their color, then how color and how one something. Sorry here. Can't really decipher what that's saying. It's not coming up clear on my screen, but it seems like we're referencing Dr. Martin Luther King, and it should be judged on the basis of the color of their skin, and not the content, or not being judged on the basis of the color of their skin, but on the content of their character. So yes. That is the goal, as far as I see it, and that's eventually what we want to move to, where we are being judged on what we do, on our character, and what we do, what we say, who we are, not on how we look, how dark our skin is, how much melanin we have in our body. And so, in order to be able to get that done, what steps do we need to take going forward, especially in the time that we are? When we have a group of people who think that it's okay for white supremacists to run amok and be about, they're not judging on the content of our character; they're judging on, our skin color. It's funny, we had Senator Lindsey Graham out of South Carolina. He's running for re-election, and he was asked a question about Black people. May have been a little jest in what he said, but his comment was that they were asked if it was safe for Black people to be in South Carolina. He said, yeah. He was like, it is safe for a Black person to go anywhere in South Carolina, as long as that Black person is conservative. And, and this is during a debate. And so the question is, how do we have leaders who have that kind of thought process? That the only way, as a Black man or a Black person, it's safe to go around South Carolina, all parts of South Carolina, is if you have the similar thoughts or a conservative mindset. So if I have a different mindset, then I'm not safe. Well, how as law enforcement, how are you supposed to govern that? How are you supposed to govern when that's the mindset that's coming down from your leadership in Congress? And so we have to make a decision as individuals. Is it enough for us to march? Is it enough for us to look at our local situation and not participate nationally in our elections to make sure that individuals with a mindset like that are not able to infiltrate the system and pass down their views? Again, he said it was safe for a black man he said black man. He's safe for a black man to go anywhere in South Carolina as long as he's conservative. And so I think that's the problem. It's not on the content of your character. That's purely on your color. Because it's safe for a white person to go anywhere in South Carolina, regardless of their view. But for us, there's the special rules. There's special hurdles that have to be jumped over. And so that's one of the fights that we have to fight. That if we want equal treatment, that those comments can't be okay. That a sitting congressperson cannot say that during a debate and that be okay. Whether you are conservative or liberal, Republican or Democrat, that can't be okay. If you're going to be a Christian and you're going to say, well, black people, as long as they're conservative, they can go wherever they want to go. It's not okay. And we have to, from my standpoint, we have to be better than that. So we're going to look and see any more questions or comments. All right. Well, if not, I'm going to wrap this episode up. I appreciate everyone who came out and is viewing it. Again, if anyone wants to participate in this show, please feel free to contact Amani Christian Ministries, and you can definitely come on and share your views. We're open to everyone who wants to come on, continue the conversation. Next week, we will dive deep right before the election. It will be our last show before the election. And so we will have a little bit more of an election spin, talking to individuals who want to talk about what we should be doing for social justice and how it is being affected by the upcoming election. Appreciate you joining us. Thank you and good night.